You know, mankind is naturally wired to be explorers. We love the idea of going places that we have never been before. It was just a little over 100 years ago that mankind decided to go to one unknown frontier, the South Pole. Two men, Roald Amundsen and Robert Scott, decided to try to each be the first who reached the South Pole and safely returned. Both men started from different points in Antarctica in 1911, and both of them faced 1,400-mile journeys across this frozen tundra. They faced harsh conditions, incredible winds, sub-zero temperatures, all out there on the frozen tundra without any communication. Both these men, Amundsen and Scott, prepared for the trip, but they prepared in very different ways. Amundsen was Norwegian, and the first thing he did was he knew he had to build up his endurance. So he decided to get on his bike and ride 2,000 miles from Norway to Spain. And then he also knew that at some point they might be shipwrecked. So he prepared his body by eating raw dolphin meat. He even went and lived with the Inuit people for a time so that he could understand what it was to live in polar conditions. He knew that there would be harsh conditions along the way, and he knew that it would take discipline to prepare for the unexpected. He didn't want to wait until he was in an unexpected situation to try to find the discipline and exertion it would take to overcome it. That was his philosophy. He knew you had to prepare for the conditions before they ever showed up. He knew that something bad would happen along the way, and he wanted to be prepared. Scott, on the other hand, he could have trained hard leading up to the expedition, but he really didn't prepare or plan much at all, or even think things through. Amundsen, when he was moving across the frozen tundra, he used dogs to pull his sled. Scott and his team chose ponies who sweat, and that sweat turns to ice. Ponies who have a hard time walking through the deep snow, unlike dogs that move around more naturally. Ponies who there's nothing natural for them to eat in Antarctica, so they had to carry hay along with them for the ponies to eat. And finally, after those ponies gave out, Scott had to have his men be the ones that were pulling the sled. On the days where the weather was good, Scott would drive his team to near exhaustion. And then on days that the weather was bad, he would sit in his tent and he would sulk and he would complain about all the bad luck that he was facing. In the race to the South Pole, it was Amundsen who led his team to victory on December 14th, 1911. They made it to the South Pole, and he got all of his men, his entire team, safely back. Now, 5 weeks later, Scott and his team did finally reach the South Pole. But on the return trip home, they got within 150 miles of their base camp. They ran out of supplies, and every single man on that team perished. You have two men with the same goal who faced the same circumstances, the same environment, the same conditions, the same weather, but their trips had two very different outcomes. And the reason was the focus of their preparation looked very different. Right now, we are on a journey where few, if any, have ever been before. And you may be like Scott. You may think you've been preparing for this journey, but now that we're here, you realize this is not it. In fact, even if you're like Amundsen and you've done all the right preparation, you've eaten the raw dolphin meat, still, there's been nothing we could do to be prepared for what it is that we're facing right now. So as we head into this fall, we want to help you live out our mission to make disciples by God's grace and for His glory at home and across the world. And it doesn't matter what environment you find yourself in, whether you're a D group leader, a women's Bible study leader, a men's group leader, a midweek leader, wherever it is that you find yourself in an environment of leading others in spiritual growth, we want to help prepare you for what's ahead. Now, to do this, we're going to have to be like Amundsen. We're going to have to prepare for the journey that's ahead of us, not necessarily the journey that we wish we had. This fall, it's likely that many people will be more likely to attend a small group, a D group, or some smaller gathering far more than they are a large group worship service. And knowing that, we want to make sure that we've got you ready to lead the people you are shepherding well to follow Jesus Christ and to know and love Him more. When you look at the early church in Acts chapter 2 and Acts chapter 4, you see that they did some basic things to help each other love Jesus more and love each other more. Just as they met in homes all across our community this fall, you're going to see people who are meeting in homes, but also on back porches, in parking lots at our campuses, in restaurants, pretty much any place that people can gather together for the purpose of spiritual growth. We believe that growing in our faith happens best when we are in community, when we are in small groups, and we want to prepare you as a leader for the joy that comes and the blessings that come from leading others to grow in their faith. One of the key issues that people are facing right now is mental and emotional fatigue. Throw in the coming busyness of fall, and I know that there are many families and others out there who are simply facing decision fatigue. What is it that people need in the middle of all this? They need clarity. And today we're here to provide that clarity for you when it comes to making disciples as a part of your D group or midweek Bible study or wherever you find yourself. And we want this to be a clarity not that drains you with one more thing to do, but a clarity that revives us because we know the purpose that's in front of us and what we're doing to help our people better know, love, and follow Jesus Christ. And as we provide you as leaders that clarity, we hope that you will share that clarity with others down into your groups, no matter where you find yourself this fall. So we're going to give you 3 key ideas, 3 things that if you'll focus on these heading into the fall and as you lead your groups, we believe that they will help your people better follow Jesus this fall. Here's what those 3 key things are. First, our D groups are designed to help people build relationships. We were made for spiritual community. It's not enough just to sit around in a circle in a parking lot or in someone's home and learn each other's names and maybe learn a few interesting facts about each other. We want to start to see friendships form, and then we want to see those friendships move together to become more and more of a true spiritual community. We see this happening even in the early church as people met in homes regularly and shared meals together. Right now, our need for community is so high. As Americans, we struggle against living individual, isolated lives, even without a global pandemic. But right now, all over our church and all over our community, there are people who are living with very limited interaction with others. And our loneliness it's at an all-time high. What we can do is we can provide a space and a place where people can connect with each other and grow in their faith. As D group leaders, that's our job. It's not just to help people connect with Christ, which, that's part of it. But it's to help them connect in relationship with each other so that our groups become people who get to truly know each other, truly understand each other, and then begin to pull together in life. Besides building relationships, another key to you leading your group is to help people grow spiritually. Now, I know that seems like the point, right? Making disciples is literally helping people become more and more like Jesus and helping them grow in their love for Him more and more. But I want you to think about it like this. As you think about the people who sit around that circle in your home or on your back porch or in a parking lot or in a classroom somewhere, I want you to think in terms of each individual person and ask this question. Where are they in their faith? And how can I help them identify and take their next step of spiritual growth? How can I help them love Jesus more and more? We want to grow together in the same way that the early church did. We want to read and study our Bible together, pray for each other, encourage each other, and obey Christ together. We want to seek His presence and seek His will for our lives, and we want to know Him more and more. These relationships that we've built, that's the context for the growth that we will experience together in the grace of Christ. And as a leader, you get to experience the blessing and the joy that comes from walking beside people who are becoming more and more like Jesus and experiencing Him to the fullest. The third key to leading our groups is this. We want to help people live on mission together. And we've already said that our mission is to make disciples, and whenever we do that, we are helping to advance the kingdom of God. And it may sound strange because we've talked so much about building relationships with each other and learning from the Bible, growing in our faith together. But unless there is an outflow to our faith, not just individually, but also to all of us as a group, then we can't truly be on the mission of Christ together. We see this happening in the early church as they gathered together to meet each other's physical needs and also to share and show the good news of Jesus Christ to the people who are around them. It's one of the great ironies when it comes to spiritual community that when we aim for that community, we often fall short of it. But when we aim ultimately for mission together, community becomes a byproduct of the mission that we're on. Now, you've seen this, and those of you who've been on mission trips and how you're working towards a common goal together, and that trip seems to fast forward the relationships you build with the people that you're on the trip with. Or maybe you've worked on a big project together with people at work or at school, And you've seen how those relationships form quickly over the work that you're doing together. And you see a smaller version of this happen in our families, the people that we live with and are closest to. As we pursue our life goals together, there's a bond that's formed and a closeness that comes. As D groups, we want to see our people working together to make an impact on our church, in our community, and across the globe. Our D group pastors and leaders will talk with you more about what that looks like specifically as we work in and through the relationships that Fellowship has with our local and our global partners, and also within our own church as we seek to make an impact for the kingdom of God. Now, if you as a D group leader, if you'll focus on those three key areas of helping people build relationships, grow spiritually, and live on mission together, you'll begin to see what Christ can do in and through you in your group. In fact, as we help people focus on those three key areas, you'll begin to see what happens and just experience the inherent joy and blessing that comes as we interact with Christ, with His Word, with His Spirit, and with His mission. In a time of great uncertainty, this is our clarity: relationships, spiritual growth, and mission. In a time where there are so many people who are struggling to keep their head above water, so many people who are hurting, so many people who feel like they're not prepared for the journey that's ahead, we want to be there with them and for them. You know, over the past few months, we've watched so many people take a step back just to wait to see what's going to happen next. But you know who hasn't taken a step back? You. You haven't taken a step back. In fact, as spiritual leaders here at Fellowship, you've actually taken a step forward. While other big events and organizations are all having to shut down and close up, you've asked the question, how do we keep going? So many of you have even stepped forward at this point and said, hey, I want to start a new group. I want to help people who are disconnected, people who don't have a place to build relationships and grow in their faith. I want to help them find their place. We just want you to know how much we appreciate you and how proud we are to serve alongside you as we follow Christ together. We have watched with joy over the past few months at the creativity and the innovation you've shown as you've gathered your people together and continue to help them take steps forward in their faith. You are the best of what Christ does in us and through us. Now look, I know at times this fall, you're going to get tired, and there are certainly more times of uncertainty that are ahead. But we want you to know that we are here with you. Your pastors, your staff, your elders, we are pulling together with you, and we're here to help you with anything that you need. Now look, I don't want to go to the South Pole. In fact, I hate cold weather, and I certainly don't want to eat raw dolphin meat. But our hope is that all the preparation you've experienced of a lifetime of following Christ and of the past few weeks or months or years or however long you've spent following Christ and leading others to do the same, our prayer is that all of that preparation comes to bear great fruit this fall. We are COVID weary, no doubt, but we are spiritually energized, and we can't wait to see what Christ has in store.